Just want to do a quick video showing you the key things you need to know about the Night of the Long Knives. This can be a complicated topic for some people, I'm well aware, so I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. So what we want to find out is why did Hitler carry out this purge of the SA on the 30th of June 1934, and what were the motivations behind it? There's a very simple GCSE answer that the SA wanted to be the army of Germany, and that's why Hitler killed them. But as usual with A level, it gets a bit more complicated. Okay, so let's dive down into this. Then we'll start off with Rome. First of all, Rome. Um, it is true that Rome wanted to be the leader of the German army, but it was clear to him by June that this wasn't going to happen, and that he had been in a meeting with Blomberg and been told quite clearly by Hitler that Blomberg, this guy here, Blomberg, head of the Reichswehr, was going to remain in place as head of the German army, and that the SA would have to play a subordinate role. Now, um, Rome wasn't happy about this, and he was openly talking about the need for a second revolution. Okay, a second revolution. Um, and this would be something that Hitler wouldn't have control of. So maybe there are reasons for Hitler to be wary of him. But I think there's deeper issues here which are going on with the Night of the Long Knives, other than just this idea that Rome wanted to be the head of the German army. I think the deeper reason is these two guys up here, Hindenburg and Papen. It's pretty clear that by 1934, Hindenburg is becoming frustrated with SA violence. Um, the SA was growing as an organisation. It had grown from 500,000 in 1930 to roughly around 3 to 4 million by 1934. It was a huge organisation, and a lot of its violence was going unchecked. So it was attacking its opponents, it was attacking Jews, it was basically operating like a state within a state with very little control over it. And that's that idea of a revolution from below. It was carrying out violence, which wasn't part of a plan by the Nazis. It was just organically coming out of the SA. And Hindenburg was getting frustrated with it. And he if you remember why Hindenburg appointed Hitler, he appointed Hitler because he thought Hitler could get the situation under control in Germany. But now the violence was continuing. Um, so Hindenburg is frustrated with this, and he says to Papen, if Hitler cannot get his SA under control, I might have to institute a military dictatorship. In other words, that would involve sacking Hitler and putting Blomberg in charge of the running of the country. Now, obviously, this is not going to make Hitler happy, but that was the plan. That was what Hindenburg was thinking. Unless Hitler could get the situation under control, uh, there would be a military dictatorship. And Papen made a speech. It's called the Marburg speech, um, in the early part of 1934, where he calls for an end to what he calls the rule of terror and for the creation of a stable society. So there's a lot of pressure on Hitler from these two guys to actually deal with the rough elements in his own party. Now, Hitler tried to suppress the Marburg speech, but he fails, and Hindenburg makes it clear that he's going to impose martial law unless Hitler pulls the SA into line. So there's a deeper reason why Hitler instigates the Night of the Long Knives. He's under pressure, okay, from Hindenburg and Papen. There are other reasons as well. If you look at these two guys, Himmler, who's head of the SS, which is quite small at this stage, and Goering, who at this stage is president of the Reichstag, which is like the speaker, but he's also head of the Prussian government, which had been taken over by Papen, if you remember, during the coup of 1932. So he's head of the Prussian government, and that puts him at the head of the Prussian police. And it's as head of the Prussian police, Goering sets up the Gestapo, and we all know the role the Gestapo goes on to play within Nazi Germany. But these two guys are two big players in Nazi Germany, and they're looking at Rome, and they're looking at Rome shooting his mouth off about second revolution, and they're looking at Rome building up this huge sort of personal army with these 4 million SA men. And I don't think jealousy is the right word, but they're quite envious of him. And they're envious of the relationship that he has with Hitler because Rome and Hitler go right back to the early days of the Nazi Party. So they try to undermine Rome. Okay? So it says here other members of the Nazi hierarchy, particularly Goering and Himmler, are envious of the power Rome is accruing, and they provide evidence. And evidence is inverted commas there, meaning this is spurious. We're not too sure whether this was true or not. That Rome was involved in a plot to overthrow Hitler and undermine the government. Now, there you've got Nazi infighting, and this is a characteristic of the Nazis during this period. There was a lot of vying for position within the Nazi party, with these guys trying to get close to Hitler, if you like, to be Hitler's favourite. Goering goes on to become Hitler's number two, and we all know how important Himmler was in the Second World War, basically carrying out the Holocaust. So these two guys are involved as well in sort of telling Hitler that Rome was plotting against them. So, folks, that's it in a nutshell. The causes of the Night of the Long Knives. Yes, Rome was calling for a second revolution and looking to lead the German army and looking for a complete overthrow of the Wilhelmine society. The conservative elite up here were getting nervous by SA violence and wanted it ended. And then you've got the Nazi infighting by these guys who want to see Rome taken down a peg or two, and maybe they can take up the position as Hitler's favourite. Okay, guys, that's it. I hope you found something interesting and useful in that.